Welcome to Earth's Mightiest Weirdos. Rob, how are you doing down there? Rob is frozen in time with his Iron Man glasses going on. So we're off to a fantastic start. We are in the middle of a Nexus event, ladies and gentlemen. We found ourselves two Mark variants. Mark Adams and Mark Valentine could not join us tonight, so we're calling in from the bullpen a couple of other Marvel weirdos that really know what they're talking about. We'll start in the bottom corner, Mr. Kevin. Kevin up in the Northeast, and he is the Funko master of the group.
That is true, yes. Hi, all. Thanks all for having me. Can't wait to talk about everything.
And up north of the border, where the pandemic is still going very, very strong, Cara, you have taken time away from your life of roasting me for my Pixar rankings, and you have joined us to talk about a little Shang-Chi and a little bit of Loki.
Yes, I will try and keep my roasting to a minimum today. However, I make no promises.
Fair enough. Well, just so everybody who knows, some of the people here, we have Justin, says he's the first one to the timeline. He's ready to create a Nexus event. Katie's here. Katie's fresh off of her birthday just yesterday. Happy birthday, Katie.
Happy birthday.
Well, we heard a little bit.
I'm
I'm going to remove Rob from a little bit. We'll get him back on here in just a minute. Dwayne is here. Thanks for joining us, Dwayne. Frankie's here. David Rosen is here. Hello, David. Patrick is here. Stephanie is here, and a very happy birthday to Stephanie today as well.
Happy birthday, Stephanie.
Big week.
I know.
Big week.
I have one coming up myself. It's a big birthday week.
Nexus
right. Looks like we're going to get Rob here in just a minute, and then we'll get him going there. But let's introduce the new weirdos to the group. So, Cara, let's start with you. Let's give us a little bit of your origin story. What makes you an official weirdo?
Oh, God. Where do we start?
As a Marvel standard.
Okay, Marvel
I was like, yeah, where do we start?
Yeah, I had the classic, never was into any kind of comics or weird things at all until the Avengers came out. And then I tweeted about it, and I thought this was a good movie. And then a bunch of people followed me back on Twitter, like random weirdos out there in the world. And I was like, okay, well, this is weird, but I kind of like it. And now here I am. I have all the Marvel shirts. I got all my Funkos up there watching me sleep at night. And yeah, and now I just talk about Marvel all the time for fun. So
that is true. What is your favorite Marvel film?
Outside of the Avengers, Iron Man 1.
Iron Man 1. I knew that. I should have remembered that. Kevin, when we talk about Funkos, I've been the resident Funko guy around here for a while. Mm-hmm. My collection is not even half the size of your collection. I'm well into the triple digits.
Yeah, I'm definitely into the triple digits. We're probably getting close to the 4 digits, probably. Which, this isn't even all of them. I have a bunch behind me, but there's more around me. They're just all around me here in my apartment. But yeah, a lot of Funkos happening.
Now, when it comes to the MCU specifically, Kevin, I know you grew up on the comic books, correct? You seem to
sort of, yeah. I was a big Spider-Man fan growing up. I love the 1990s animated series, so I was always big on that, and loved the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films. That was one of the first big superhero films I remember going to see, and I just loved that series. And I do have some comic knowledge, but I wasn't a big follower until more recently of the Marvel comics and such. But yeah, I remember going to see Iron Man 1 in theaters, and I was just like, oh my God, this is so cool. And then I slowly started reading up about, they're trying to build a universe out of this. And I was like, that's interesting. They've never really done that on the screen before. And then we got to the Avengers, and I was like blown away, how that came together and everything and such. So yeah, I was a fan since I think I've seen every film in theaters. I don't think I saw the Incredible Hulk, only because I think we had just had the Ang Lee Hulk a couple years before, and I didn't know if it was a true sequel or what was happening there. And I was like, I don't really need another Hulk. And then I slowly realized, that's part of this universe too and stuff, and I didn't know it then. So I think that's the only one I didn't see in theaters. But yeah, that's kind of, and now Cara, I'm just talking about Marvel with all these other weirdos. So
Perfect. Well, Rob's kind of going in and out of the stream here for a little bit, but we're going to get him back here in just a minute. I'm going to take him down until I can see that he's back fully. I thought we were there, but Mark Valentine, even though he's not joining us on the live stream tonight, he's here. The birthday girl from yesterday's wishing today's birthday girl happy birthday. Dwayne turns the big 5-0 this weekend. So
yes, Iron Man. Thank you.
So happy.
I guess, yeah. And I guess my favorite, I will say Captain America Winter Soldier is probably my favorite film, but I'm going to give, just for today's stream, I'm going to give the first Avenger my top spot, because that one always just holds a special place. That one, everybody kind of is like, that's kind of a lower tier one, but that one's always big on me. I always enjoyed First Avenger as a film, maybe because it was a 40s war film kind of thing, but yeah, so for today, I'll say First Avengers for my favorite.
Nice. Well, there you go. Perfect. Let's try adding Rob one more time, see if we've got him.
Let's go, Rob. We believe in you.
Hear me?
We can kind of hear you.
Kind of hear you.
Hear me.
Screen's black, so I'm going to take him down, and we'll keep trying to get him in there. But let's get into it. Let's first and foremost, we had before we start talking about Loki, we had a trailer drop, part of Disney Synergy, you got to premiere it during the NBA basketball games on ESPN. We got a Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. That trailer dropped. We are going to talk right now about the first, 120 seconds, and then we're going to ignore the last 15 seconds for just a minute. So, Kevin, what did you think of that Shang-Chi trailer?
Oh, I thought it was great. I really loved it. I thought it was did a better job of building on what we saw in the teaser trailer from a couple months ago, which I remember I was like, when I heard that they were dropping the trailer, I was like, didn't we just get one? And then it was like, oh, we got it back in April and it's already almost July. So I'm like, oh, okay. And it's coming out in September. And I don't know, my sense of time right now is just like, it's like September is super close, but it doesn't feel super close. And so it's just like, oh yeah, you definitely want but also they like started the trailer drops for this like kind of late with the teasers and everything, I guess, compared to, because they were trying to still figure out when it would be dropping in theaters and such. But I really loved it. I loved all the stuff with Tony Leung for the Wenwu and the Mandarin stuff, seeing the 10 rings and how they're acting more as like bracelets and all. Yeah, that shot especially, that was super cool to see that, especially with Shang-Chi fighting him to like it appears to be like to get control of the rings and such. So overall, yeah, it was the visuals were great. It was great to see a different flavor of the MCU coming through, and I can't wait to see the full thing come September.
And people have asked, September 3rd is the drop date for Shang-Chi, and I almost said Bob Iger. Bob Chapek has said that this is going to have a 45-day theatrical release only, so it will not have the same treatment that Black Widow's getting. But it is only a 45-day exclusivity, so look for Shang-Chi on Disney Plus or in another manner, kind of mid to late October. Cara, what did you think of the Shang-Chi trailer? I'll pull up another screenshot that we have from that trailer as well.
Okay. So I have absolutely no idea what's happening because I've never read any of the comics. I don't know a whole lot of background about these things. I don't know if anybody watching is the same way, but I kind of prefer it that way. I don't like to know a whole lot. I like to be surprised. I like to not know that Bucky is the Winter Soldier, all that kind of stuff makes the whole experience. So I have no idea what's happening. It looks awesome. The rings as bracelets, like as they're functioning on their own, is unreal. That looks fun. I'm personally attached to this because Simu Liu is Canadian, so this is our first Canadian superhero. I have to be on board with this. But yeah, the scene when his like arms are up and everybody's just beating on him and he's a teenager, I was like, okay, like this movie has a lot going on.
Yeah, he's a handsome man. Like, I'm just gonna say, he's a good-looking dude. And if you want to learn more about Simu Liu, where I learned about him is Kim's Convenience. Yep. The final season just dropped on Netflix. So Kim's Convenience is a great show. He's really, really funny on that show. I really like it. And Kevin, I think you're done with Kim's Convenience, right?
Yeah, I was. So when I learned, learning that Simu Liu was going to be in this and trying to figure out his other work, I had heard about Kim's Convenience. A couple of people, like randomly before I knew Simu Liu, was gonna be in this, had said, "Oh, you should check out Kim's Convenience. It's this Canadian comedy sitcom that you should check out." And so it was on the back burner. But then, like, I did check it out during the pandemic. That was one of the ones that I just kind of binged through a little bit, and I was like, "Oh, this is great." And so when I knew the final season was coming out, I as soon as it came out, I kind of like binged through it in like a day or two, and just because they're like half-hour episodes, so they're great to go through quickly. And I really liked it, and I'm sad to see the series got canceled the way that it did, because it was a great series.
Yeah, that's not been pleasant to hear the reports of how that show kind of came to an end.
Yeah,
we're going to try to add Rob in here. He says his Wi-Fi is having a few challenges. We can at least see his face now, so we'll give Rob another chance to jump in.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Yeah.
Well, I hope it works. I think it's the Wi-Fi. It's acting slow.
Yeah, you're breaking up just a little bit, so we'll keep you connected, and if you drop out, we'll get you taken care of. But so hopefully Rob's able to get back in here for us. But anyway, so Sarah's here. Sarah says she finally got a signal. Sarah, are you still traveling the country? We hope you are traveling safely and enjoying your time over there. She was in Utah last week. I don't know where she's at today. Ooh. Sarah, let us know. So Dwayne asked if I gave Piano Rob the boot. Absolutely not. Katie says her YouTube's having a bit of a trouble as well. I don't know if that's just Katie or if it's everybody. Maybe we're just talking into nobody, but that's fine. We can have a nice conversation, the three of us. But like I said, we wanted to talk about everything in the Shang-Chi trailer, except for the final 15 seconds. So let's get into it. Kevin, I'm going to turn the time over to you. We got a pretty big reveal at the end of that trailer of a returning character.
Yeah, it was crazy. I was actually watching the trailer. You and I were on a call together, and it dropped, and so we were watching it together with some other people. And we got to the end, and we were all kind of I think the connection was like not super great for me when we were watching it, and the audio was slightly ahead or behind the visual. So I was like, I'm watching, I'm just getting the visuals quickly, and then it got to the end here, and I'm like, that looks like a sea monster. Oh, is that the Abomination? I don't really know. And then we all kind of went on with our night. And then I looked back and I was like, oh man, that's the Abomination. And honestly, I was saying I would not have put on my bingo card for MCU stuff for the Abomination to show up in Shang-Chi and be a tie-in into the She-Hulk TV series. Like, I would never in a million years have made that, had put those two properties together. And so honestly, this has got me even more excited now for Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, so that we can learn like why is this character here? Is it just a little cameo for this little fight arena with a character that potentially is Benedict Wong reprising his role as Wong? It's not super clear, but some people have been speculating that. Is it
to be Wong? Yeah, it sure seems to be him for sure.
Yeah, at least that the previous image you just had up from the back of his head, it definitely looks like him from the back. But some others, it's hard to tell. But in any event, just seeing this character reappear after we knew from Disney Investor Day, Kevin Feige had announced to us that Tim Roth was going to be reprising the character for the She-Hulk series. So that got everybody excited, because anytime they dip back into that Incredible Hulk pool of characters, it's like, you're no longer the forgotten child of the MCU, it's like they're pulling the characters back. But to see him appear, I mean, obviously from the trailer, we don't know for sure if it's Blonsky. I mean, you would think it is. And hopefully Roth is back either in person or obviously doing the vocal things with the sound effects to make the voice. But very excited to see like why he looks this way and what his role is in this film, and how it's going to maybe springboard into the She-Hulk series.
Yeah, there will be some sort of in-story explanation why he doesn't look the same as he did in 2008.
Yeah, and even if it's just like a line of being like, "Oh, I was stuck in containment and they bombarded me with more radiation," or something, like, we don't need a whole thing, like just a little something to tell us why, and we're good to go, and let's just see him rampage on people.
Yeah. Well, Rob, I think we've got you here now. Let's get your thoughts on the Shang-Chi trailer.
I am very, very excited for this movie, because I too do not know that much about it, and I love that I don't know that much about it. I'm curious to see how it ties in. I feel about this the way I felt about Guardians. I didn't know too much about them, and I don't want to ruin it by doing too much. I want to see it, let them amaze me, because they're going to.
I think just quickly on that point for both you, Rob and Cara, that Shang-Chi in the comics at least it appears like he kind of has a problematic history with like being like written by predominantly white people and being an Asian character and stuff, so I do think they're trying to like rework some of his story. So I think, and he's a very like more of a minor character, so kind of like the Guardian, so he doesn't have much backstory. So I think that's good for all of us. Like even myself, like I know a little bit and I know the things of like what happened, like slight things in the comics, but it seems like this is a whole new ball game. And so I'm with you both on that of like, I'm very excited to see, like, I'm kind of going in fresh. Like, I don't know what's going to happen and I'm excited for that.
They're already changing his backstory in the comics. His dad was Fu Manchu,
exactly,
and for many problematic reasons, that character will never make an appearance in the MCU.
Right,
and they've already revealed that the Mandarin is his father. So lots of issues with his dad throwing a man against the mirror and then just obliterating him. Cara, before you were talking about those rings being the bracelets. I mean, it looks cool. The visuals are amazing. So pretty cool there. So Sarah says she's back in Rapid City. She's just going to Sam's Club. Well, thank you for joining us, Sarah. But she said Yellowstone was amazing. So Ryan's here. Thanks for joining us, Ryan. He says YouTube was the one having the challenges. Dwayne switched over to Facebook. Katie switched over to Facebook as well. So I don't know what the problem is with YouTube, but we'll get it straightened out. But let's get into the main topic of the night, talking about Loki. So Cara, let's start with you. Looking at the first 3 episodes of Loki as a whole, what are your thoughts on this series? How are you feeling about it? And then kind of more specifically about the 3rd episode, how are you feeling still?
Yeah, so Loki was not one of my most anticipated projects coming out this year. Not because I don't like Loki or I wasn't excited about it, but just because there's so much coming at us and so much to be excited about. And I just didn't know what to think about it based on the trailers. So similar to what I said earlier, I try not to know as much information as possible. So I only watch one trailer and then I don't watch anything else. But it has blown
self-control. I don't have that thing they call self-control.
Yeah, I know. It's just like, it just makes the experience so much better though. I just have to do. I started, really strict on WandaVision. It's just continued. But yeah, it's been really interesting. Loki's character development through this series has been amazing. This is definitely Tom's best work in this character. I would say I wasn't sure what we were going to get because we were getting 2012 Loki and not all of the character development from Loki we've seen in the past. But I'm really loving it. He's so funny in this series. It's fast paced. Owen Wilson, I wasn't sure what to think about him, and he's nailing it. And now we got Lady Loki, or maybe Sylvie, not Lady Loki. Whatever. So
you're our Lady Loki variant for this episode. So thank you for joining us.
Lady Mark, if you will.
Kevin, how about you? Just overall thoughts on Loki and kind of where you stand now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I was similar a little bit to Cara, that I guess initially when we heard rumblings of a Loki series and they announced it at San Diego Comic-Con, I was like, this might be interesting, but I definitely felt like WandaVision and other ones definitely piqued my interest more. But then once I kind of learned that the head writer was Michael Waldron, who's from Rick and Morty, and I love Rick and Morty, and then knowing and then seeing some kind of pre-release stuff of what he was talking about, what he was hoping to do with the series and stuff, I got a little more intrigued. And then that first episode hit, and it was like, we did a whole bunch of first 2 episodes, really, did a whole bunch of development in the series of some stuff that you would think another series, that those 2 episodes would be the whole season, whole 6 episodes, and we got those in the first 2, and I was like, all right, we're going on a ride, and this is going to be great. And I definitely enjoyed where we went in the 3rd episode. On initial viewings, I really enjoyed it, but since I've watched it a couple times now, and I don't dislike it anymore, but I definitely see some I've taken down my excitement of like just knowing, like looking at the overall arc of the series, like between 1, 2, and 3. I'm like, okay, 3 might have been a little slower than it needed to be, but I still very much enjoyed it, and especially the character dynamics that we're getting between Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson, and even now between Tom and Sophia DiMartino are really, really great.
Yeah, so like to kind of steer into that a little bit, like what Cara said is we took that whole 6-year arc of Loki's redemption and we fit it into the first episode, and it was really well done.
Right.
Then the second episode ended with where I thought the series was going to end, with bombing the sacred timeline and going into those branches and then having to clean it up. Then the third episode, my expectations, and I know a victim of my expectations, this episode really let me down from that standpoint. Is we didn't, and I understand it wouldn't be natural for us, especially with how guarded Sylvie is, for her character to learn all about her right at once.
Right.
But this one really felt fillery to me. It was all on a green screen, just looking around at an alien planet. For me, there was a few good drop-ins, but for the most part, I thought it was a wasted 36 minutes. Well, no, that's not true. I thought it was a wasted 27 minutes with 7 really, really good minutes in there. That's just where I stand on the third episode. But what about you, Rob?
I couldn't disagree more.
I knew that. That's why I wanted to fit mine in first.
I know. I love these shows. They can't be action, 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 because the one thing that Marvel does so well is they take the time to develop their characters and make you love the character. Sylvie, I don't think, is just going to be around for this season. So they needed to give you more backstory on her. I've already said it before. I'm pretty sure they're going to make this variant of Loki the Enchantress. That's what they're doing with her. And Enchantress does have a role to play in the Young Avengers, which I also think is eventually coming based on all these series. So they needed to hook you in with the first 2 episodes. They know you're not going anywhere now. So now they're going to sit there and they're going to make you love this character. And they may have thrown a couple of subtle things, and we'll see how they come to fruition. We'll talk about them later during this, I'm sure. But I absolutely love this episode for that reason, because I know I can be patient and take the step back and go, okay, I'm listening. What are you showing me here?
James is here. Derek is here. Thanks for coming, everybody. Sarah says she loves Sylvie. Pretty sure that she found her new costume for the Mickey's Boo Bash and Halloween for this year. So that's some good stuff going on there. But let's get into the episode then. Rob, we're going to start with you. We start at the very beginning, and this is where we get our first hint that Hunter C-20 had a past, that she wasn't just created by the TVA. And you're like, well, that doesn't make a ton of sense. And so when Sylvie drops that bomb later in the episode, it makes sense. But Rob, I mean, we start off with a really cool song called Devils. I don't remember the name of the artist that created it, but it's a pretty cool song, but it fit right in here.
Yeah, the music, they're always spot on with their music and what they do. I love this whole scene. We all speculated that everybody was a variant already, so this by no means shocks me. It's just they had to give us this information somehow to see what happens, and it also shows the different ways she can infiltrate somebody's mind, and they also wanted to show you that. So bravo to them. That's exactly the reason for all of that, I think.
Kevin, how about you? Was there anything that you took from these opening scenes?
Yeah, it was definitely, it caught you off guard for sure, because yeah, like you said, the song was great. It was a really great song to just like get you in the mood of like, okay, this is gonna be fun. And then you're seeing C-20 sipping on some margaritas in a tiki hut, and you're like, okay, like this, like, is this like are they in a virtual simulation at the TVA or something? And then you see Sylvie is with her still known as the variant at that point, and we're like, okay, do they have a history? Like, is there some history to them? Are they were they former partners out on a romp in the timeline? Did they sneak away to go to this tiki hut or something? And then you start seeing what's happening. And you're like, oh, okay. So at that point in the episode, because we hadn't learned yet that the TVA agents are variants through the timelines, I thought it was just a elaborate enchantment that Sylvie had done on her to be this is kind of where, just to put her into a space that might seem calming or fun or something to get the information. So but yeah, later in the episode when we learn that, it's oh, that's crazy that it was a memory that she had.
And to give credit where credit is due, the song is Demons by Haley Kiyoko is the artist that created that song. But credit to C-20. I mean, she was pretty hard on herself in the second episode of saying, I gave away where the timekeepers are. Mm-hmm. And now she put up a good fight. And Sylvie says later on that usually it happens instantaneously because it's just so easy. She's just so good at it. So credit to Hunter C-20 at that point. But Cara, I feel like this episode opening really resonated with you because I feel like you could find yourself in this exact same situation.
Yes, if you need to get some information out of me, you're going to take me to the bar and give me some margaritas. Yes.
Right.
Yes. I'm wondering about in the last episode when she was kind of rocking back and forth going, it's real. Mm-hmm. Like, is she then talking about her life, like her old life? Her life was real.
Well, and it feels like Hunter B-15 probably saw something from her previous life too when she wakes up.
Right.
Yeah.
I forgot about that the B-15 moment too. Yeah, because what Cara was saying about that, I was just thinking about that line about it's real, and I was like, okay, now I'm starting to put the pieces. Like maybe she like what you were saying, that she's like, oh, my life was real. So yeah,
Yeah, I'm interested to see like if they add on to that.
Yeah, well, we find out where Sylvie goes. She goes back to the TVA, and I don't know why I never thought that she would go back to the TVA. For me, she was going to one of those timelines that she had just bombed, and she was trying to correct something there. But she went back to the TVA to finish what she started, Kylo Ren style. And we're going to start this again with Rob. We find out that her enchantment powers, just like Loki's powers in the TVA, do not work. So she has to take matters into her own hands, and she's very capable.
She is very capable. I'm a little surprised she didn't know her powers wouldn't work. I would think all the times of the fighting, maybe that would have came up, but I guess she's never been in the TVA before.
I don't think she's ever been in the building. That's what I took from it.
So that was interesting, but she shows her skills in other ways, and it's interesting the way that whole scene played out, the way Loki ended up taking the temp pad. It was very comic booky, which is what it should be.
Cara, what about you? Did you take anything from this time of the TVA? And I mean, it seems like there's a familiarity, or at least with Renslayer and Sylvie. And Renslayer is also very willing to let our Loki variant just go.
Yeah, I was also surprised to see her go there. I loved that Loki got his knives back. I liked that. I liked that he, said she was being rude, because we all say that. That was relatable. And then just the whole "you're in my way, you are my way" line was pretty great. And then the whole like falling into the next apocalypse or whatever happened so fast. Like even on my third watch, I'm like, how did he get that button so fast? But yeah. They're gods, so they can figure it out.
Yeah, that's fair. Kevin, you got anything back at the TVA?
I mean, really, yeah, just what everyone said, and just she just Sylvie had a really great fighting style. It seemed like very like she was moving a lot, very fluid, and we got a good fight sequence out of that from her. So definitely enjoyed seeing that.
When you talk about fighting style, I want to just throw this in here real quick. If you go and watch that end scene of this episode, when they're fighting those guards, there's one specific spot from behind where Loki and her do a mirror image of the exact same kick on the guards. And it's really, really cool to show that they really are kind of the same, just cut from a different cloth, but the same person. But Cara talked about it, and we'll start there with you, Kevin. They end up on Lamentis 1 in the year 2077, a post-apocalyptic moon that is going to be crashed into by a planet. We find out they get there because like you have your saved searches on your phone GPS or whatever, that she's gone to all these apocalypses and had picked and choose, and she didn't choose this one for a reason. So they end up back at Lamentis 1, and the temp pad has no juice.
Yep. Yeah. This was great to see, because like they arrive and they're scuffling between each other and they're at a standoff, and then you see the meteor come in, and you're like, Loki is thinking Sylvie that's part of her power set, and she's like, no, and then she's like, she goes out, she immediately knows where they are, and is like so upset at Loki for taking them there. And then Loki, he has no idea. He's just like, he was just trying to get out of the TVA from being reset by the stick that Renslayer had. So, he was just trying to get away. And just going through that minefield quickly of them just getting all the meteors coming in, and the way that they filmed that with the purple color all throughout the episode, really, on the planet and stuff was really great to just get a different visual style than the more brownish amber we've been getting inside the TVA. So it was really cool.
For me, it felt like a completely different show this time, just because the way the storytelling was unraveling. And part of that is it just looked like a completely different show. Rob, what did you think of Lamentis 1?
Well, time travel 101, first of all, you don't go anywhere without extra plutonium or you're not going to get back. So I don't know why we didn't charge that temp pad beforehand. I love that they chose
21 gigawatts.
I love that they did something like this, though, because it's a storytelling technique. When you want to develop a character, you put them, a character you already know with a new one in an isolated situation. So the episode becomes about the two of them. There was no Owen Wilson in this entire episode, which I missed. The planet itself seems like some futuristic planet, but it's getting totally destroyed. I don't think there's much else to take from it. So yeah, that's all I got on Lamentis.
If you really want to dive into it, there looks like there's some variation of Xandarian language, that this could be some sort of something within, at least run by the Nova Corps, or something within the Xandarian Guardians of the Galaxy, even with that purple color, very Guardians of the Galaxy-esque. But Cara, I mean, you're kind of with me a little bit. You're like, you weren't sure what you thought of Lamentis 1 and just the setting for the episode. What did you think of it?
I thought it looked really cool. I really liked that they got their powers back. Like right away, Loki's doing nonsense with his powers, and I loved that. For the last couple episodes, we haven't got to see a lot of Loki magic, so that made me excited. I did like their banter. I thought Tom and Owen Wilson, they have great banter, but these two have phenomenal banter. And even like when she tries to enchant him and there's like a little bit of sexual tension maybe, and you're thinking, of course Loki is attracted to himself, like of course he's drawn to himself, like that's so, it just all worked, like it all checked out for me. And even like when he's running away and, do you need help? And or you don't need to help me, or whatever she said. And he's like, you're so weird. Like as he's running away, like those little quips I just love.
So I think and again, disappointment is strong, but I'm not fully convinced that any of this is real. And I think that's if you're going to tell me that Loki enchanted Sylvie, you're really going to need to explain that one to me, because we've never seen this power from Loki before. And if you're telling me Sylvie, but if Loki's enchanting Sylvie, why would he allow himself to get drunk? And if Sylvie's enchanting Loki, why would she fall asleep? Like there's multiple things within here. And Rob, we'll give you your chance when we get to the Snowpiercer train, where you feel like there's evidence that Loki is definitely enchanting Sylvie, but none of it. I think this episode's going to age a lot better once we understand what's going on. Sure. Again, victim of my expectations. I expected just a little bit more. I wanted to go to one of those 22 branches that we got last week, and we didn't. So it just, I don't know. There's still a lot in this episode that we can take from. But Cara, we're going to start with you. We finally get official confirmation that she is a Loki variant. When she says, don't call me that, she's just shed that name. She's now taken on the name of Sylvie. When you combine that with her enchantment powers, that seems to be the name of Sylvie is more a nod to the comics and the Enchantress, and she's not the Enchantress herself, which I'm completely fine with. But what did you take of her finally acknowledging that she maybe is a Loki, but doesn't want to be called that anymore?
I mean, it sounds like she's been through some stuff. Like later on, they're talking about their moms and whatever, and I know we'll get to that, but it sounds like she had a very different upbringing than our Loki did. So
they both were children of Laufey. We do know that they shared the same parentage and they were both adopted. She just found out a lot sooner than he did.
Yeah. So it sounds like, she's been through some stuff and seen a lot of things that we haven't seen yet. So I'm not, she doesn't want to be Loki. She doesn't have to be. But that also might explain some of the stuff, because a couple of times Loki has said throughout the series, like, I would never do that. And so that might explain if she's trying to be somebody else. And that's all I got from that.
Yeah. Kevin, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was great, because especially last week with episode 2, some things had come out of like, it's like still like in the foreign dub credits of like naming the character Sylvie, even though we only knew her as a variant. So I was glad that they like kind of addressed that right away for us. So it's not like we were sitting on this for like 2 more episodes or whatever, or until the very end. But yeah, like you said, Bryan, I definitely thought, and the actress even said in some interviews she had over the weekend that like the writers definitely were inspired by the Lady Loki character and the Sylvie Enchantress character from the comics, and kind of like maybe mash some of that together, as the MCU kind of tends to do with some characters, but that she's more of her own entity. So there's probably bits and pieces here and there, but she's definitely a Loki, and she's her own character in the MCU, which I think is great. And hopefully that stays true for the most part, but maybe down the line, she'll maybe take the name Enchantress for the MCU or something. But yeah, I thought it was I wasn't super familiar with the name Sylvie for the Enchantress kind of before the episode 2 when people were starting to talk about that. So it wasn't really even on my radar. But I think it fits because of her enchantment powers and everything. And I think it's a nice nod and just a way to kind of tie a bunch of characters together into a new, better character that the MCU usually kind of does sometimes.
I hope she does become the Enchantress, just because that means I think Loki's going to stick around with Tom Hiddleston.
Right.
I don't think if Tom Hiddleston's gone, then she just becomes kind of the new Loki, and I want him to stick around. Rob, how about you?
I agree with everything you guys said about mashing up the characters, so I won't even elaborate on that. As far as being Enchantress, I'm pretty sure it's going to happen because they purposely use the word enchant over and over and over again. And on the same day, Disney World announces their new enchantment fireworks show, which I thought was kind of funny down in Disney World. But for that reason, I do think they're going to call her the Enchantress. I think they're definitely going to do that.
She sure seems to have a future in the MCU, and I hope, man, she's really, really good. I like her.
And before we get off this topic, that one scene where she gets mad and like the green fists come out and there's that little explosion, that is a verbatim picture from the comics of Sylvie as the Enchantress. So that's you could say it's inspiration, whatever it is, but that is a verbatim picture of that.
And then like conversely with her costume, like her horn, the broken horn, that's like a Lady Loki look from the Agent of Asgard run. So it's like they're definitely pulling the bits and pieces to make MCU Sylvie, who may be the Enchantress.
And she can be both, which is great. She could be, it's awesome.
Yeah, I like, honestly, when she balls her fists up and screams, like that actually felt really out of place to me. I think it kind of just shows her power. I don't know. I kind of like rolled my eyes at that, but again,
I think they want
for any of the girls on here, all of the girls that are watching
you
this
understand
it.
I think they wanted to get that scene in because it's in the comic. I think they wanted that Easter egg there. That's why I think it might have been a little forced, but that's why.
I did not know it was straight from the comics. So that, I mean, I'm willing to forgive all at that point. Like that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, I didn't know that was in the comics either. But I at least Cara's point. I just felt like it was a moment she was like Loki was just pissing her off, and she was just like, I'm not gonna like fight him, but I need to like let this energy, this like anger out, and just like it resulted in that scream and the little energy burst. So I got a little chuckle out of it, but I can definitely see how it was like it feels off-putting if you weren't really sure like why it was really there.
We'll catch up with the comments a little bit. Dwayne says he thought it was cool that they confirmed it was all variants. There's a comment going on about a wooden spoon in the comments that I can't find the origin of, so we'll just leave that for now. Mackenzie says she needs to know what's going on and where they're stranded. Now what? Like I mean, Mobius is going to save them. I hope they come up with a satisfying way that Mobius saves them again, unless one is enchanting the other and says, haha, gotcha, or something like that. I suppose that's possible. Patrick says, I'd imagine we'll get some backstory on her soon, maybe even reasoning as to where her name comes in, Enchantress or not. Absolutely. They cannot end this season 1, hopefully, of a multiple season run without explaining us who she is and why. So I think Patrick's definitely onto something there. But they're walking. We get, again, what I feel wasn't a super necessary scene, though still funny, where they get blasted by the lady sitting in her house and Loki impersonates the husband who's never been. Apologize, my neighbors are launching fireworks 4th of July. But I mean, Loki's really nice to her, and therefore she knows that can't be her husband because he hasn't said anything that nice in 30 years. Again, maybe not a super necessary scene other than to set up, hey, there's a train out of town. And that train, I'm going to call it the Snowpiercer because it's what it is. I mean, it very, very much starts there. There's a lot of odd things that happen on the train, from I can't sit backwards. Before they even get on the train, very, very hits you over the head with they're only letting the wealthy get on the train. Very real world stuff going on there. But they get on the train. We see Loki's plan that she says is just an idea and just what does she call it? Just a thing to do or whatever. And they get on there. She can't sit back, or he can't sit backwards. Just a lot of odd stuff. But they have this first date awkward conversation. And again, like Cara said, like leave it up to Loki to be so interested in himself that we'll finally start chipping away a little bit here. And one of the pieces of information, and Kevin, we're going to throw this to you. One of the pieces of information we get is groundbreaking from the standpoint of equality and representation on film, that they confirmed that not only is Sylvie, but Loki as well, is is bisexual, has interest in both men and women.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was definitely the first time I was watching it. I don't know if I quickly picked up on the line or whatever, and like it registered or whatever, but then maybe I thought back and I was like, oh, I think they said because the line is something about like Sylvie saying something to the effect of like, oh, you were a would-be prince, there must have been like would-be princesses or maybe princes who like would have caught your eye for like a love interest, and Loki responds like there was, and a bit of both, bit of both and stuff, and that's kind of what he says. But yeah, I mean, I think that's I've seen a bunch of people be celebrating the moment, but also being a little bit like feels a little too like too little, too late kind of a thing of like Marvel should have been like doing this a lot sooner for sure. Like at least more so when they split away from Marvel proper from the creative committee, and Feige had like control, and they started when they finally like did Black Panther and Captain Marvel, like they should have started things around that point. I believe. But yeah, it was great to finally confirm. So we're not just looking to Joe Russo's unnamed grieving character in Endgame anymore as the representative character for anybody who feels seen by this. And so it was really great, I feel. And Kate Herron, the director of the series and this episode, tweeted like after the episode had been out for a while that she was working very hard as because she's a bisexual as well, and the representation was important for her, for Loki, and for her to have this happen and be canon in the MCU. And they worked in the scene to try and have the lighting be the colors of the bisexual flag, which are magenta, pink, and blue. And so it was either through the lighting or some of the like the whole planet's like purple looking, but then like some of the costumes has the blue in it, so all the colors were there to just kind of highlight and put the lighting in there. So yeah, I happy to throw to anybody else to add, but I definitely felt it was a great moment for anybody who felt represented by it.
Something that kind of I mean, it shouldn't necessarily be this way, but simple fact of the matter is it's more groundbreaking because it was a male character. I think if you do it with a female character, it doesn't land quite the same way. That's just kind of my thought process, is because I mean that's just simply have how I've experienced this. I could very well be wrong. I'm fully willing to admit that, but I think taking an established character, one of the most fan favorite characters, and doing this, like you said, Kevin, makes people feel a little bit more seen, a little bit more heard. Cara, do you got anything just on this specific topic or the Snowpiercer in general?
Yeah, I would just say like it was exactly what it should have been, and that it just flowed, and there wasn't really a big deal made about it. It was just he said, this is how I am, and they just moved on. And that's exactly how I feel like it should be, especially at this stage, 2021. It's just part of it, and then you say who you are, and then you move on. It doesn't need to be like a whole big deal. And so I hope that moving forward, people realize that, and they can just kind of start adding a little bit more in as we go.
Rob.
Disney does their best to let everybody know they're all inclusive. So they take a piece of all these movies, all these shows. They make sure they put something about gender equality or race equality. They make sure they put it in there. As long as it doesn't make it stray too far from the story, of course, I think it's great that they do that. They let everybody know that. As far as the train in general, the only thing I'm going to really say is, like you guys were saying, weird stuff started happening. Loki started acting a little out of character. He was in the uniform that he created, and then suddenly she wakes up from a nap. He's not in that uniform. Something's weird. I know you guys know where I stand, but my one little nugget, and it might be totally wrong, I think he enchants her on the train. There's a very, very weird scene around 25 minutes and 40 seconds in, and I know because I looked. He grabs her hands. He says, I know the answer to your question, the one about love. There's a very weird pause, and you hear like this weird woof kind of sound as if some magic happened. Could be my imagination, could be by chance. But right after that is when the fight happens and they get thrown off the train. So part of me wonders if there's some magic happening. I don't think Mobius is going to save them, because if everybody on Lamentis dies, there should be no variance. They shouldn't even be able to trace them to Lamentis. It wouldn't make any sense that they would even find them. And I think
that's where I think like there's got to be some sort of explanation. because you're right, they can't track him, but Mobius has to know somehow, some way.
Or one of them is enchanting the other one, which I like. For all we know, that temp pad isn't actually even out of juice. That could all. I mean, he's the trickster god. He could. They're both the trickster god. There's a lot of tricksters going on. They can make this anything, and we're gonna find out what it is. But right now, all we can do is speculate.
Yeah, there's some really good stuff on the train, including a really cool Asgardian song, chant, or whatever it is. It's really, really cool. I really enjoyed that. And then we get just a wonderful call out back to the original Thor of Loki smashing a cup to the ground and says another, just like Thor did with the coffee in the diner. Cara, I know this scene really resonated with you.
Yes, well, starting from when like he took her champagne and then said, "I'm going to relax the way I'm going to relax." Loki and I have that in common. We would relax the same way. Am I like smashing my cups on the ground? No, but I am still not convinced that he was actually drunk. I just have a hard time believing that Loki, God of Mischief, can get drunk on a train in 2077. It's just like that. Like if that's what it is, then that's cool, and I'll buy it. But I don't know that I fully buy. I think that was a ruse of some kind.
Thousands of years of tolerance kind of paying dividends.
Yeah.
Robbie,
I feel like the drinks on Asgard would be a lot stronger than the drinks on Earth, right? Like, doesn't matter.
This liquor was forged in the barrels of Grunhild's fleet. It was not meant for mortal men. Neither was Omaha Beach, Blondie. Hand it over. All right. Rob, you talked about it. He's the god of mischief. Maybe the temp pad wasn't out of juice. Maybe the temp pad isn't even broken. But for now, the temp pad is destroyed. Mm-hmm. So Rob, are you of the belief that the temp pad's not actually what the temp pad is?
It's not that I think it may not be destroyed. And by the way, before we get too far, just that drinking song, I looked it up. It was kind of, think of it like an Irish drinking song. It talked about all the woes of Loki's life, his mother dying, stuff like that. Just an interesting thing if you didn't know.
Real quick, when he talks about his mother dying, I'm surprised at how much this affects him, because his mother didn't actually die. He's now living in an alternate timeline where Frigga could very well still live. I'm very interested that this death is affecting Loki to that point. He's obviously convinced that the sacred timeline's a thing, because this Loki's mother never officially died, even though he even tells Sylvie that she died. So I just had that realization earlier today, and I just wanted to put that out there.
Are they trying to make us believe, for movie's sake, he's basically the Loki that dies in Infinity War at that point because he's caught up? Or is that a trick and he's pretending it's affecting him so much? I mean, this is where you can really go down the multiverse rabbit hole.
He's good at compartmentalizing, because even last week, Ragnarok seemed to affect him, and then Mobius apologizes and says, yeah, whatever. As
far as the temp pad, though, actually being broken, I don't really believe it. There's something, it was too convenient, because that's after the weird, like I said, I felt something happened on that train. Then they're thrown out and the temp pad's broken. I don't think he would have gotten drunk and did anything to jeopardize their only hope of getting off of there, because that would have meant he died. But it would be a great tactic to do some manipulation.
Yeah, are we going to pick up the next episode with her sleeping on that train and it was all a dream? I suppose that's possible. Kevin, how about you? How are you experiencing this entire temp pad fiasco?
The way that it was presented, and the way that I guess I'm believing, is that when he fell out of the train, like him landing on the ground is what broke it. Because to me, I'm just picturing it in a pocket dimension, in his back pocket or whatever. So it's not Sylvie can't just reach around and grab it, but it's kind of in that space. So anything that's done to him is affecting it. So obviously when he lands on the ground being thrown out the train, that's kind of when it breaks and whatnot. So that's kind of what I was reading into it. And so I thought it was broken, but I definitely feel that I wonder if there's something with the TVA where they can track temp pads of their agents or something. So if they know that they were using, if it's C20s or somebody else's, that they can look up on their old 80s computers and whatnot of recent search history, or who used what where or whatever. So maybe that could be a way. But
what's the address on Lamentis 1?
Yeah, or something. Yeah. But yeah, I definitely didn't initially feel anything on the train was suspect of like, but I did feel at times that there were moments in the episode where either one of them could have been enchanting the other one, but like the train didn't really stand out as a moment, but I can definitely see where that would probably be the moment. Like you said, like Bryan, if like we start next episode or like later in the episode of it, her like waking up from her nap or something like that, and that was like something that happened.
I hope not.
Yeah, I hope not either. Yeah.
Stephanie says, I feel like Loki is so affected because her death was his fault, and he's really struck by that. I mean, there's definitely something to that. Absolutely. So let's pick this one up with Cara. And this is where we learn, Cara, the biggest bombshell of the episode for me, that the TVA agents were regular people, as Sylvie says, before they were working for them. And they were people who loved margaritas, and they are all variants.
Yeah. Loki going, they don't know that, was, I think, all of us. Like, oh my God.
He could have been a jet ski, like professional jet ski rider,
Yep.
for all we know.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting, the like panic in his voice that they don't know that. Like you could feel like he wanted to go back and help them, which I thought was interesting because that's not typically a Loki characteristic to go back and help people. So obviously he's kind of done some growing over in the TVA. But yeah, that I mean explained a lot about the margarita scene at the beginning, that it wasn't just like a farce that she created, but it was actually a scene from back in the day, which is kind of sad.
I think it strengthens the idea that I put out on last week's episode of Mobius being, especially when he says, I think you could even take my job, when Mobius says that to Loki, that Mobius is a Loki variant of some sort. I think that really puts this front and center, that makes that very possible. Kevin, how about you? How did you experience the margarita loving TVA agents?
Yeah, it was just like kind of like the line about their sexuality was just kind of it just kind of flowed in the conversation. It was definitely a nugget that was placed in the episode for us to just sit on and know, okay, we're going to come back to this. But yeah, I definitely feel like in the moment Loki was at least more concerned about Mobius to some extent, I think, because knowing that he fully believes the timekeepers created me. I'm on this path. It is what it is. And he's like, well, that's not it anymore. And yeah, I do. If Mobius, I don't know if Mobius is just a variant of Mobius's, and there's just been a bunch of them, which might explain the rings on Renslayer's coffee table. Like there's just been a bunch of Mobius's that have just kind of cycled through, and that's their habit. Or he is a Loki or whatever. But I definitely he was on a jet ski at some point in his life for sure. That's like confirmed. I feel like that has to be confirmed, and we need that flashback moment or at some point or at the end of the series or something. Like that's a teaser or an end tag or something of him just riding on his jet ski.
And I mean, I'm still of the belief that Renslayer is behind this, that she knows what's going on. But does the JFK high school, or not JFK, FDR high school, like, is that from her previous life? There's so many rabbit holes that this can take you down. It's very, very interesting. You're correct. He is a jet ski enthusiast and always has been, like Piano Rob and his pianos. Rob, how did you experience the margarita loving TVA agents?
This was one of the not a surprise to me. This scene, like there was a very big part of me that thought they were all variants. It made sense. We said it last week. It also gives us a time frame for when Owen Wilson's character was alive. We know he lived on Earth in the 90s because he likes jet skis, which I think is a little bit of a key part. This also solidified for me that if one of them is enchanting the other one, though, it has to be Loki enchanting Sylvie, because they create a memory from their past. So if Lamentis wasn't already in our Loki's past, that's not a place that they would have went. So it would have to be him enchanting her, I think, based on their rules.
But let me throw this out there. If it's him enchanting her, why in an own enchantment that you're so good at, you're then prying about how enchantment works? Just to be,
you know what? I didn't. You're absolutely right, and it could be wrong. That's why I didn't know if it's just conversation.
I'm not trying to be a jerk.
Oh, I know you're not. I know you're not.
That out there.
And I'm well aware I could always be 100% wrong, which is totally fine with me on these things. It's just that is one part of it that I didn't know. Is he just making conversation now? Because would she have just volunteered that they're all variants and they don't know it? Was this their way to get close? It's a very weird ending because they basically gave it a finite type of ending, which we know is not finite. So there was a trick in there. What's the trick? I need to know what the trick is.
Yep. Yeah. Did he just get her to have a brain freeze and finally give up the information that she wanted? I mean, I suppose that's true, but Kevin, I'm with you. I experienced that the same way as Loki. He's so surprised that they're all variants, but he's only thinking about the one person. He's only thinking about Mobius.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
Well, we finally get to the civilization and the Ark, and they're going to try to hijack the Ark as their way of creating a new timeline to get off of this planet. Civilization collapses. What I can't wrap my mind around is even the guards, when the Ark destroys and it really, the apocalypse is coming. Like, why haven't the guards abandoned their job at this point? Like, what makes the guards so convinced that they should remain in charge, that they're going to survive this? It doesn't make a ton of sense for me. It does make for some really cool choreographed fight scenes, including this entire one shot of following them around the city. Really, really cool. Not as cool as the Black Panther one shot that we get in the casino, but still that entire single frame shot of constantly just going back and forth and running around the city was really, really cool. Kevin, what did you think of this final scene?
Yeah, it just kind of sneaks up on us because, like we were saying, like the episode is one of the shortest one we've had so far, and so like it feels like we were just getting kind of in the pace of what they were doing, and then it's like, oh, we're here in the city, and then it's like, oh, like it's like they look at each other and like, we're gonna go get this Ark, and it's like, we're gonna go get this Ark, and then they just kind of go through the city, yeah, and seeing that the one shot was like really cool. I definitely you could tell, I think there were like definitely moments where they probably stitched some things together to make it one, but out of like multiple sections of it, but it still looked really cool. And the one thing that was confusing to me though, which kind of leads me to some theories I have, is at the end with like Loki he like stops a building coming down, and it like, to me, that's kind of like a time stone action, kind of like an Infinity Stone. So one of my big things is that he possibly pocketed an Infinity Stone back at the TVA when he was around Casey's cart before that got vanquished. So that's kind of how I'm thinking they may get off the planet. But that was the one thing that I just, but also like, I feel like also in the last episode with Loki's magic, like he like made the Roomba like kind of like force pull to him or whatever. And like, we're just seeing some parts of his magic that we've never really like seen. So it's like, is it like, oh, is this a new thing? Is this a thing that he's been able to do that we just haven't been able to see? So that just kind of, especially when at least with this building falling, it definitely had a very Doctor Strange Time Stone-esque movement to it, of like it came down and then it like literally like went back up into place. So that was just one thing that kind of threw me of it. But other than that, it was just cool seeing them go through that sequence.
It did look really similar to when Count Dooku was pulling the pipes down onto Obi-Wan and Anakin, and Yoda comes in and stops it. It looks very similar to that.
Yeah.
If he stole a time stone, he really chose a poor time to finally pull that out. Patrick says the tracking shot at the end was amazing, and then Loki using his powers, taking the guards out. He loved the design of the city. He says there's a hidden Mickey in there. I didn't know this, so I'd love to check that out. David says, why didn't the officers on the Titanic not jump ship? I mean, I guess that's a good point, but maybe they thought they were getting on the Ark too. Everybody seems surprised when the Ark takes off without adding a few extra people. Cara, how about this last scene for you?
Yeah, it gave me a little bit of similar vibes to the tracking shot in, is it Japan with Hawkeye? Or
in Tokyo in Endgame?
Yeah, and Endgame, and it was kind of gave me similar vibes to that, and I thought that was cool. When Loki did that like other magic to bring that building back up, why hasn't he been doing that this whole time?
Right.
Now I'm kind of on Rob's side, actually. If this wasn't like a whole elaborate scheme by Loki, why hasn't he been doing this the whole time with everything coming at him if he can do that?
That's fair. Rob, how about you?
The scene, first of all, it's beautiful. I love the way they work these fight sequences in, because they're very movie quality, great fight sequences. I love it. I am not convinced that the whole scene is real. I'm not saying it's not, but I don't, my gut tells me they're not going to bring Infinity Stones into it. that theory is totally plausible. Like, why not have a stone in your pocket to get out of trouble? But it almost seems too easy, which is why that's why my only other thing is, well, it's an illusion, unless there's another power source there of some sort. But I don't think that there would be. I don't know if some of those guards just know this is your job and you.
We lost it.
Oh,
I didn't.
we lost him.
He lost his connection. So, but no, I think he's onto something. David says, does he still have the Tesseract? Could possibly move a building, give him the force powers. I mean, I'm just willing to chalk up that he's kind of always had these force powers. Rob, go ahead. Can finish your sentence.
Oh, I said too much. They were like, this guy knows too much. Let's shut him down. Shut him down.
The snipers were coming for you.
But honestly, that's pretty much. I think I got to most of the point. That's why I just think it's something's not fitting right here, because that can't be the end of it. So I think something's coming from it.
Spoiler alert for those of you that watch the end of the 3rd episode and think that Loki's going to die. He's not. Like, he's just not. Sorry to ruin that for you. But Cara, any final thoughts on the episode? What are you excited for where the series is going? Do you have any predictions you want to put a receipt on? Reasons and receipts.
Reasons and receipts. No, to be honest, I don't have a lot of, like, I'm not like you guys. I don't have a lot of, like, crazy theories and thoughts and whatever.
Do the timekeepers exist, in your opinion?
The timekeepers? I don't know. I don't know if they do. And if they do, I've heard a lot of, murmurs about Kang and whatever, and that sounds fun, and that sounds like it could happen. I don't know. They brought back the Abomination. They can do whatever they want. So that sounds cool. I don't think there's 3. Maybe 1. I do like your theory about Ravonna and Miss Minutes. Okay, the Ravonna and the Miss Minutes Funko Pop being together, that's suspect. You know what I mean? Like, they obviously are up to some shenanigans, the two of them. So yeah, there's that. I like this episode. For me, was a little bit short. I think everybody felt that. Like, the last couple episodes have been almost an hour. This one was kind of near the half an hour mark. So I'm excited to get more. 3 more episodes. Bring it on.
At this point, I think everybody wants a Miss Minutes Funko, and not many people want a Ravonna Renslayer Funko.
Yeah. Give us the normal size Funko. Give us the normal at a 10-inch.
Give us the 10-inch. Yes, the 10-inch Miss Minutes. Kevin, any final
yeah.
you have?
Well, I did one thing to note about the episode. It was written by Bisha K. Ali, who's the head writer for Miss Marvel. Wanted just to point that out. So some small indications. I mean, obviously, all these writers on the writing team, they work on all the episodes, but they probably break it out of like, okay, you're gonna go write this one and whatnot. So her influence is probably in all the other ones we've seen a little bit, but just good to see that's carrying through, and maybe some indication of what Miss Minutes might, or not Miss Minutes, Miss Marvel will be like. Some predictions. I do know. I think at this either when the first episode came out or right before, Tom Hiddleston was asked what like his favorite episodes were, and he said 4 and 5. He felt were the ones that the audience would be like, these are the ones. So that's good to know. Hopefully that means that they're going to come through with some big surprises. My receipt thing, I want to say, Miss Minutes is going to turn out to be evil. I'm going to hate it, but I'm going to love it both in the same. She's going to be the one behind it or something, along with Ravonna or something. I agree with Cara. I don't think there are 3 timekeepers, and I don't know who or what. I've seen some things like maybe there's an old Loki who's the head of them, and that's why it's all personal. That's going to be like all Loki centric and stuff, and Kang will just be like an afterthought. And anything I think with Kang is going to be maybe a mention, or we'll see some, because he travels through time, so maybe we'll see some version of him that's not Jonathan Majors that's going to appear in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. So he might be involved as like a overhead thing, but I don't think it's going to be a big thing, but we'll see. But I'm excited. I'm looking forward. I'm hoping after this minor pause to learn about Sylvie, we get back to hopping into the timelines or some more, just some more TVA action. I think that Wednesday's episode is going to be a good one, I think.
If she does turn out to be evil, she can bet that I will not hesitate to let her know how she's doing. Episode 4 is always the best of the Marvel shows, says Stephanie Wyatt. I mean, Falcon and Winter Soldier
I felt 5 was good.
Yeah,
5 was the
episode 4 of WandaVision was the one where we finally found out the outside world and kind of what was
But those were also like there were more of those, so like four would be 7 or 8, I think.
Midway point.
Yeah, like 6 or 7. Yeah.
Yeah. Rob, how about you? Any final thoughts?
Marvel likes to keep all these shows to stand alone as well as fit into the universe.
Mhm.
We're 3 episodes in. You've been introduced to the villain. You've been introduced to everything already, whether we know it or not. Miss Minutes is definitely bad. That's the part that boggles my mind. I don't know to what extent. I don't know if she's some weird variant, if she's working with somebody, but there's definitely something evil. And we don't know how all those reset charges affected everything. So I think we're going to get some more information how maybe somebody came to fruition. I mean, that was, we almost forgot. They do this on purpose. Like, so that was 2 weeks ago now almost. There's reset charges everywhere. Anything is possible now.
That's true. I did forget that.
The TVA is there's more bomb timelines than they have people now. Something's going to redline. Multiple are going to redline, and I can't wait to find out. I don't think we're going to visit many of those sites in this series. I think we'll visit one of those sites in Far From Home. I think we'll visit several of those sites in Multiverse of Madness. I can't wait. I can't wait for 3 a.m. tomorrow night to watch Loki. 7 a.m. for Cara. She's always got a standing appointment 7 a.m. Wednesday mornings to catch it. And Kevin, you catch it pretty early too, don't you?
I usually do. Yeah, I did happen to catch it with Carol last week, and so that was nice. But we'll see about this. We'll see about this week's if I make it that early.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for sticking with us through the Wi-Fi challenges, Rob, and getting back online. It was great to have you. Our variants, Kevin and Cara, thank you so much for stepping in. You guys did a fantastic job. Once a weirdo, always a weirdo.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, everybody, for all time.